Hi, and welcome to our third episode of Workforce Dynamics Africa. I am Basma Hawari, and once again, we welcome Mila Richardson, our ADP's chief economist, and we are so delighted to have you here again with us. In this episode, we are going to talk about Africa's place in the global economy and how to support it through global hiring and tech. But first, Mila, what can you tell us about Africa's position right now?
Well, it's always great when we're talking about Africa to put it in context in terms of what it means for the broader global environment. Because as we've talked about, Basma, I believe that Africa is critical not just to its own future, but to global growth more generally. And when we look around the world, and we've done this at ADP Research, we've asked workers a really simple question. Do you think you have the skills that you need now to advance your careers in the next 3 years? And we asked that of 38,000 workers in 34 countries in our People at Work survey, and the answer was resoundingly no. Only 24%, that's 1 in 4 workers around the globe, think they have the skills they need to advance their careers over the next 3 years. So we have a critical skill shortage. And only 17% of those same workers said that their employers were investing in those skills. And so when we turn to Africa, the numbers are actually more favorable. In Africa, 38% said that they had the skills that they needed to go to that next higher job. So there is a sense that the workers in Africa are prepared for the future, and they are also more positive about their employer's place in giving them those skills for tomorrow. So this is very different than what we see around the world.
And in your opinion, what skills are required?
Well, there's a variety of skills, and we're increasingly doing business everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you go into the mind of a company, and it used to be just large companies, when they thought about people, they were always looking for the cheapest sources of labor. That is the old way of thinking about global talent. Now companies are thinking about where the most skilled workforce is, where the most engaged workforce is, how can they grow their business not just this year but over the next decade, and increasingly that place is Africa. You have a very engaged workforce, you have young talent, and you have talent that really wants to advance their careers by acquiring skills. Not only that, within Africa you have a more global perspective in terms of languages. That's going to be important in terms of operating in this new world. And cultural awareness, being able to work not only across time zones and geographies, but across cultures is a critical skill that workers are going to need to have in the future. There's also technical skills, an awareness of technology, a comfort with continuous learning, being able to be adaptable and resilient as this new technological boom cycle, I think it's going to be a boom cycle, takes root. It's going to be critical that workers don't stay content with the skills that they have now, but they're always continuously learning because that's what the technology is going to require.
And in your opinion, how can American or European companies operating in Africa attract this global talent?
Well, again, back in the olden times, it was really just large companies that were looking to hire internationally. But increasingly, we've seen this at ADP, and it's true around the world. Small and medium companies are looking for talent. Why? Why are they looking outside their borders for talent? Well, it's because in these countries, in Europe and in the United States, in China and Japan, you have an increasingly older workforce. And that workforce is sometimes less engaged and sometimes less tech savvy. So if you're looking for a workforce that is engaged, tech savvy, and willing to learn, you have to look outside, oftentimes, those domestic borders, even if you're a small and medium-sized firm. So it's going to have to start with technology because you have to engage a workforce in a digital way. If you're hiring beyond your geography. They can't just come to the office. So how do you provide those tools and techniques as a firm outside the region for workers? So it's really connecting the dots between the company and its resources and the talent. And increasingly, again, because of macro trends and demographic shifts, the talent is increasingly in Africa. As we've said before, 3/4 of the global employment growth will be driven by Africa.
How can private firms help these talents into training and upskilling?
So Basma, that's a very important question. I'm really glad that you asked it. At ADP Research, we looked at 51 million workers over a 4-year time period. And we wanted to know how many of those workers were upskilled. And I don't know if you want to wager a guess, over 4 years, 51 million workers, how many were upskilled?
I don't know.
Less than 4%. Less than 4%. So it's a tremendous opportunity. We also did other research where we took all the occupations, so think from nursing to dishwasher to juggler to architect, any occupation really you can think of. And we classified those occupations by the skills and education required to do those jobs. So there were 5 type classifications. These are standard classifications used around the world, from least preparation needed, think maybe a dishwasher. You don't need a college degree to wash dishes. That's why I keep telling my sons, you can wash the dishes. There's nothing stopping you. All the way up to the most advanced levels of occupation. Think of brain surgeon, where you need a lot of education to do that role. And what we found is the benefit of upskilling a worker from one level of preparation to the next increased wages by 37%. Wow. That's a huge opportunity there. If you can just take a worker and upskill them to a next level job, it boosts their salaries. And that's not just good for workers, it's good for companies, because what that wage increase represents is more productivity. And if you can match workers with productivity, you get growth in your bottom line as a company. So there's every reason in the world that companies should take upskilling seriously, both domestic African companies, but also companies who are trying to find talent in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nila, for all these insights. Really great to have you here with us.
It's a pleasure, Bassa.
It's a pleasure for me too. So next up is our employee engagement in the workplace. Worldwide engagement employee level average about 19%, and yet in South Africa is 31%. What does that mean for the future of work in Africa? Stay tuned.